to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have nothing to report out of closed session and no intention to reorganize any agenda items for it. We'll move forward to our student report.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Evelyn Madrigal, and I'm here today to represent Yuba City High School. I'd like to start by thanking each and every one of you for taking the time to attend this meeting. I know that all of us have busy schedules and that our time is valuable, so I truly appreciate your willingness to be here today. And I'd like to take this opportunity to update you on some of the events that have taken place recently and to share some of the plans for upcoming events. So first, I would like to mention the staff versus students volleyball game, which is a popular event amongst both students and staff members. This event is a very fun and exciting way for our students to interact with all of our staff members throughout our school. And so the senior class dance, which is also known as the winter formal, is an important tradition that marks the end of the students' high school journey. And it's also an opportunity for the senior class to come together and celebrate their accomplishments before they move on to the next chapter of their lives. The next thing I have is Honker's Got Talent. That's also coming up, which provides an opportunity for students to showcase their talents in front of their peers and the community. The talent show is a great way to give students the opportunity to express themselves and build confidence in their abilities. And finally, the rally is a school event that is organized by ASB with different activities and games to promote school spirit and encourage students to get involved in school activities. This event is a great way to increase student involvement and engagement in our school. And in conclusion, I would like to express my gratitude to all the staff, students, and volunteers who have been involved in planning and organizing these events. These events provide opportunities for students to succeed both academically and socially. Thank you all once again for your time and your commitment to our students and their education. That's all I have for you guys today.
First of all, I would like to apologize for my late absence. My track practice ran a little late today, and so it was kind of a hurry to get over here as quick as I could. I hope you guys all had a very restful winter break. I know that I did. Track practice never stopped, but it was nice. I have short and sweet for you guys today. The first and biggest thing I want to get out is River Valley did host a leadership conference today featuring Scott Bakovich. He is a world-renowned leadership mentor and guide, and he really just spent a couple hours with us today. We took the school day, and he really gave us a new perspective on how we look at leadership and how we look at student participation regarding the idea of the things and events we plan. Some biggest things that he wanted to do is he taught us how to build trust with our student body, low risk kind of involvement for the kids who are not as eager to join in on the fun. Something called a Connect Week. I know we have Spirit Weeks where we all dress up and we all have a good time, but something he really stressed, and I thought that it was extremely important, was a Connection Week, which was a series of low stress, kind of more like ASB giving to the school, whether that's, right after winter break got out and everybody's feeling like the rainy day blues. I know it's been nonstop raining recently, like before finals. Second week of school is actually one of the biggest downsides for coming back to school for kids. It's ranked number 3, I believe, for most stressful for kids. And so having Connection Weeks with like snacks and low risk environments for them to really calm down and de-stress is something he stressed. Panic versus comfort. That's another big topic we hit. Is a lot of Spirit Weeks are high risk, which means, you really have to put forward a lot of energy and a lot of time to be in these Spirit Weeks, and you have to give up a lot. Like you have to give up your whole day's wardrobe to come and be a part of a Spirit Week. And for some kids who are more introverted, it's a lot more difficult for them versus on the other side, which is working with comfort. And if we do too much low risk, then it becomes boring for our student body, and it's not something that people really want to participate in. As well as the biggest gift is his company, Involve gifted us with a plethora of student leadership resources, whether that be like games, events, ideas to work off of, so that we have that database and we have all that information there to really help us moving forward. And so ASB took the fourth period today, about an hour and a half, to really like refocus what we're doing with homecoming, refocus what we're doing with our Spirit Week, and try to really involve as much kids as we possibly can. So I'm really grateful that we were able to get Scott, because he's booked out for the next year, which was really great. And Miss Simmons. Up and coming sports, on the 11th, we have a boys basketball game versus Bella Vista. And on the 13th, we have a boys basketball game at River Valley versus Roseville. The last big thing I want to take up with you guys is the club rush. We are having our second and final club rush this Friday. I believe it's going to be in the gym because it's supposed to be rainy. We're hoping, keeping our fingers crossed, but that's what it's looking like to me. So we are trying to focus and emphasize the new clubs that are entering, that have entered over like the first semester of school. So this is our newest clubs are the Fishing Club and the Eco Club. So we're really trying to put them in a new light and allow them to get a member base, and sort of let the new freshmen and stuff who have finally like settled into River Valley try to find their way in clubs. To do that, Pride in Clubs have specifically been tasked with creating an informational club video. So on Friday morning before lunch and before club rush, it's a compilation of the vice president and the president, club officers, talking and pitching their club to the students in first or second period before they're going out and they are finding clubs. That's really all I have for you guys today. Again, I apologize for my late absence. Thank you guys for listening to me, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your night.
Really like his shirt too. The school board up there. Oh yeah, I haven't seen that before. Moving forward to staff recognition. Sharif.
So Eddie, what you didn't tell them is that you actually ran here, correct?
Right.
And you weren't late, nor are you absent. So good job. So good evening to our Board of Trustees, staff, and audience members. The board has prioritized time on the agenda to recognize members of the district staff who have engaged in unique and or extraordinary acts to educate today's students to succeed in tomorrow's world. And in so doing, personifying the YCUSD mission, which states our students and staff will be lifelong learners, creative problem solvers, and responsible, ethical, and respectful contributors in a global society. The board has prioritized this time each meeting because recognition shapes a culture of overall excellence by increasing productivity, promoting retention of top performers, and encouraging ongoing improvement. With that, I'd like to pass the lectern to our site and department managers who will present tonight's certificates. And we'll start with our food service department, our nutrition services. Ms. Chelsea, Director Slattery is here. There's two folks she's going to recognize. You want to bring up the one that is here? Sure. All right. That way they can all stare at him and make him uncomfortable.
Good evening, board members. My name is Chelsea Slattery. I'm the Director for Nutrition Services. Tonight I am honored to recognize Joseph Dunkel, who's here with me. So Joseph goes by Joey, so I'm going to refer to him as Joey. He is a cook transport with the Nutrition Services Department. He currently works at April Lane, transporting to Butte Vista Elementary. Prior to returning to the department as a full-time employee, Joey worked part-time as a cafeteria worker at River Valley High School and at various other sites during the summer. Joey has a passion for cooking and is always willing to go the extra mile to make sure that students at Butte Vista are taken care of. He puts extra effort into the presentation of the food that he serves, and he has developed great relationships in the short time that he has been at Butte Vista. So we are excited to have his enthusiasm and to have him back with us on the nutrition services team.
Can I get a picture? Sorry.
No problem. You go. I'll do your phone first.
So Karen's also a supervisor.
Not a problem.
Anything else? Any opposed?
Wow. Get one more. Now can I get one for everyone else? And one more. Thank you very much.
And then I have one more who was not able to be here tonight, but I'll take her certificate and make sure that she gets it tomorrow at work. So the second person that I'd like to nominate is Christine Donovan. Christine Donovan is a cook transport with the Nutrition Services Department. She's worked at multiple sites throughout the district and has been a member of the YCHS Nutrition Services team for 22 years. In September, she'll be celebrating 23 years with the district. She currently works at Gray Avenue as a cook transport, serving supper meals through the Child and Adult Care Food Program to Gray Avenue students, and she served as a mentor to some of our newer staff in the Child and Adult Care Food Program. So we're excited to have her on our team this morning. Oh, there she is. That's nice. Thank you.
Yeah, Principal Aguilera from Park Avenue here this evening.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. So I'm Victor Aguilera, principal at Park Avenue. Here to recognize first grade teacher, Ms. Margo Black. First, I want to start off by saying congratulations to Mrs. Black for this recognition. Mrs. Black was the first teacher I got to know from Park Avenue. We met last summer at a conference. And I really appreciated just how open and honest she was about the school, the students' needs, and the staff's needs. What's funny is that she never mentioned her needs, but that's just indicative of who she is. Margo's always thinking about others and what is best for the team and the school. Mrs. Black is a conscientious teacher. She excels at building relationships with her students and creating a classroom environment that is positive and where kids love to learn. Whenever I want to see good teaching and happy students, I go and visit her classroom. Not only is she an excellent teacher, but the thing that separates her from others is the effort and the time that she spends building relationships, challenging her kids and supporting them. She just makes learning fun, and her students clearly buy into her and believe in her. Personally, I am grateful to have you at Park Avenue. Since we first met, you have taken time to help me understand the needs of the school, have stepped up whenever you've been asked to, even when you didn't want to. But you did it with a smile on your face and put your heart into it. Ms. Black, we appreciate you and are lucky to have you. Thank you again for everything that you do for Park Avenue, and congratulations.
I'm sure. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ready?
This one's yours.
Personal request. Oops. Okay, here we go again. And one more. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for recognizing some of the great work that our employees have been doing here in the Unified School District. I believe Mr. Bronze taking 10.
Good evening, everybody. I'm not turning my back on you, I'm just turning around. So we'll start with Williams, right? This is our quarterly report for Williams in the past quarter. So that would be October, November, December. The fall quarter, we had no complaints filed. Any questions on that piece? Okay, we'll move into the student achievement data presentation. Thank you, Chris. Okay, so tonight, I know many of you are new to this process, so I'm going to go slow and try to explain each of the components. If you have questions, please stop me and let me know, and I'll be happy to answer. If it's something that's possibly coming later, I will ask you to wait till we get to that point. But if it's something I can answer, then we'll do so. Does that work for everyone? Okay, Chris, can I have one more? Oh, that's me.
All right,
I have it.
all right, George,
Where do I need to point?
just, it should be on and just.
There we go. Okay. All right. So California has a dashboard where information is provided on student achievement and school success in general at for every school site, every district in California. So the dashboard has been newly released just this past month. So all new information is there on how our students and the schools in California are doing. So this gives you like an idea of the total process of how our schools function, how the dashboard supports our work. We begin every year in January, which kind of seems like an odd time since it's the middle of the school year, but that's the way our process is set up. But we receive our results, and it's not just our results on tests and assessment, but also a broader view of how the school is doing, looking at student engagement through suspension rate, our student attendance, school climate, all of those pieces that feed in to developing a positive school model. So we get the results, it's reported out on the dashboard. So within the dashboard, you have your state and local measures around your student achievement data. Once the dashboard is released, we can review how students are doing and design a plan to support both schools in general and then individual students. After this period, when we're designing those supports, we begin planning for exactly what needs to happen. The next step is implementation. Through this process, a big piece of our budget comes into play, and that's our LCAP. And that's something that we'll be talking about more as we move through the year. But all of the funds that we receive through LCAP, it's over $30 million, are specific to meeting the needs and following this cycle and supporting our schools through that cycle. Okay, the dashboard metrics. These are the areas that the state of California works with us on and evaluates us on as a school district. We'll start at the beginning, and like I said, any questions that come up, please ask. A school district is required to manage the basic services of the district. We're required to have safe buildings for our students. We're required to have credentialed teachers to teach the kids. We're required to have appropriate board adopted instructional materials for students. Those are two main big pieces that are school responsibility. In addition to that, we're required to ensure that our teachers are teaching the state standards and that we are communicating with parents and providing information that they need so they can be a support to their students as well. All of those across the top are considered that one bulk piece of basic services provided to students and families to support public education. 4 through 6 are the areas where the state monitors precisely what we're doing, and they do that through assessment. So number 4 is student achievement. Within student achievement, that's where you get your state test in language arts, math, science, and English learner progress. Those are the state tests that we receive our feedback on each year. We talk about, we plan and continue and try our best to stay in a model of continuous improvement with regard to that. The next section that the state monitors is our pupil engagement, and that's done in two ways. They monitor it through our graduation rate and chronic absenteeism. If your students are engaged in campus, then they will come to school. If they're coming to school, then they should graduate. And the next area is school climate, and that one is evaluated through suspension rate. So we have to monitor our suspension rate and make every effort to keep kids in school and do so by creating a positive learning environment. Okay, number 7 is again back to district responsibility. It is our responsibility to provide a broad course of study for students. I think this is one of the areas where our district really does shine. We have, I think I sent it out very recently, a large number of CTE pathways for our students, over 20 now. And then also we have over 140 different options. Those, of course, classes at the high school level. Those aren't taught all of the time, but we have that many in our catalog that are available for those schools to provide and offer for students. Outcomes, then other student outcomes. That one is another one that's specifically monitored by the state, and that's college and career readiness. That isn't a benchmark we have this year, and I will explain that more as we get to that particular indicator. But when you don't have 2 years of comparison, which we don't for some of our data that due to some of the breaks with COVID, then we don't have that one. So we'll talk about that. So some of you that have been around a while, you might recall that in previous years, we've had the gauges with all of the different colors. And we have been able to evaluate how students have done, not just based on the actual score itself, but also compared to how they had done in previous years. And so you would get a color based on how well your students did and how well they did compared to how they did last year. So it was a twofold process. This year, we aren't able to do that with all the indicators, particularly our student achievement indicators. And that's because for 2 reasons. Number 1, we haven't tested over the last couple of years because of COVID. And then in addition to that, our assessments changed. The state made a determination during COVID to make some adjustments in the state assessments. So now it is a different test. So we're not, we wouldn't be, even if we looked back at previous data, it's not the same test. We can't compare. And I put the reminder note there. For college and career readiness, because there aren't 2 things to compare, we can't have that indicators. I'm going to go through and explain each of the indicators. So if you're wondering about that, but this, the indicators are scored by low to high, and low being poor and very high being the best, obviously. But that changes with regard to chronic absenteeism and suspension rate, because those are ones you don't want to be high. So we'll address that when we get to it. Okay, and in addition to the student scores and achievement, we monitor the state's 13 different student groups that we keep an eye on, and we look at for individual success and monitor the success of each one of those student groups. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about our metrics and how they're calculated. So for English language, arts, and math, the students are tested grades 3 through 8, and then grade 11. We compare them based on their previous results. So right now, tonight, we're going to be talking about the results of students who tested last spring. And then the scores are calculated based on all of these student scores that took the test, and then we take an average from there. And it is you come up with a percent, and that percent is, we then look at it in terms of distance from met. The state of California has set a standard for what the expectation is for students to have met the grade level standard. And then districts are judged based on how many points they are above or below that goal of meeting standard. So when we start getting to the individual indicators, that'll make more sense. Okay, around the chronic absenteeism indicator. So that's the percent of students who are 10% or more days that they have been enrolled that they were absent. So if a student was with us all year and attended 180 days, if they miss 18 or more days, that is considered chronically absent. And there was a lot of research done on this, back in the 80s and 90s that determined if that's the amount, if we can keep kids in school at least 90% of the time, then they demonstrate success. So that is a state requirement and our goal. So in students in kinder through 8th participate in this indicator. It's not for 9-12. 9-12, they attendance is done by period, and they're just not included in that. For that particular indicator, for 9 through 12, we look at graduation rate, and K through 8, we look at chronic absenteeism. So it's a little bit different. Okay, so for this one also, when you see the dashboard, this is not talking about the students that are currently in that grade. It's from their previous year. And then when you look at how it's calculated, so like I said, if they 180 days, if they missed 18, but if they were only enrolled with us 30 days and they missed 3 days, then that student counts for us as chronically absent. It's 10% for whatever amount of time they were with us.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Kindergarten is still not compulsory, is that correct?
That's correct.
And we're bringing TK in more and more and more. I mean, eventually TK will be a pretty big beast. Will that?
Those already factor in, that's a requirement.
But will TK factor into our attendance and chronic absence?
Yes.
Thank you.
That is the way the state has set that up. They don't have to go, but if they do come, we are required to monitor that piece, that attendance piece. And that's important because students who start kindergarten, all of that research back in the 90s around kindergarten, students that participate in preschool and kindergarten have a much higher graduation rate than students who just start school in first grade. All right, so English Learner Progress Indicator. This one is specific to our English learners. English learners, the goal of working with English learners is, for this indicator, is that they will make 1 year of growth every year on the LPAC test, the test that determines how they are moving through the stages of language acquisition. So students when they come into kindergarten, if they are an English learner, they are assessed and they continue to be assessed until they are redesignated or score at the top level on the test and are deemed to be English proficient. So we'll talk a little bit about our English learner progress as we move through. But this assessment is what we call the ELPI, English Learner Progress Indicator. And it is, you are successful in that if you are making 1 year of growth every school year. Okay, graduation rate. That one's a lot more complicated than you think it would be. For graduation rate, when you start each year, the high schools get a new cohort. All of the students that start with that school in 9th grade become part of a cohort. any student that leaves during that time, you have to find out where they went because they are part of your cohort until they are removed, meaning they show up in another school in California, or you know where they went and you can provide that information. Otherwise, those students stay in your cohort and would be considered a dropout unless you can truly identify that piece. So all the students that start in 9th grade are part of that one cohort. And then at the time of graduation, that there's a calculation done to determine your percentage of students that graduated. Okay. Now, students that move in over time can join your cohort, like if you get new students in 10th grade, but the students that were in there can't be removed unless you know exactly where they went. Okay, suspension rate. This one is always tricky for folks. Suspension rate is determined not by the number of suspensions on a school, but the number of students who were suspended within a school year. So one student could have been suspended 5 times. They just count as one. And, but it is that indicator goes from kindergarten through 12th grade. So it is, all grade levels are impacted by suspension rate. Okay, so now let's take a look at how we did our district. So for English language arts, we talked about the 5 levels. And just as a caveat, you have to remember, first of all, we had a new test this year and we're coming off COVID. We haven't tested our students for 2 years in a row. So this is the first year we've tested over a period. So our scores are lower than what we would normally see, and definitely lower than what we would like to see. In English language arts, you have to think of those cell phone bars, those 5 bars. We're in low, so we're at 2 bars. We'll look at that. In math, we scored the same, low for math. For chronic absenteeism, we scored very high. Unfortunately, in this particular instance, that's not what we want. You want to see very low for chronic absenteeism. A lot of that had to do with COVID and families keeping their kids home more when they were sick than they normally do. For English learner progress, however, we scored high, 4 cell phone bars out of 5. And that's very good. That means we have a strong number of our English learners making that annual year's growth every year. For suspension rate, that's high. And that one is, remember, not the good one to have high. For suspension rate, we had, and we've talked about this a bit, it's the beginning of this year, having challenges. Last year, coming off COVID, when we came back, as students had a hard time getting back into routines, and our suspension rate was higher than normal, much higher than normal. And then with our graduation rate, we're at the median level. So none of this means anything until you can start to compare it. So we're going to look at that in a minute. But just to talk specifically about now our subgroups and exactly how we're doing, we'll look at English language arts performance. We're 34 points below standard. So if just to kind of give you an understanding, standard is the expectation that we would like all of our students to meet. That's what the state has set up as our goal. And this is, we are 30 points below that, and which means about 10 questions off the mark. If we had kids getting 8 to 10 more questions, then we would certainly be out of that one. So we will, that's an area where that's more of a strength for Yuba City, and we will definitely be working on what we can do to move into that higher performance level as we head into testing this spring. So you can see there the subgroups that performed at the very low level. That's some of our neediest students. the general population of Yuba City scored in the low section, and that's the area we definitely want to target for progress.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
For both the English and the math, were the teachers given any kind of, I don't know, information about what the new test entailed, or, I mean, did they know? I mean, I would never want a teacher to feel like they were being asked to teach to a test. But knowing what is expected on a test.
Yes and no. Yes, because a lot of it was the same information that they had before. No, because the state didn't provide a lot of new information. So we knew what we could expect from based on what they had taken in the past. Nobody knew what was
the standards are the standards,
adjustment,
right? I mean,
the standards are the standards.
The way questions are asked can be
changed
different.
And be very different and very hard. One of the key differences from what we've learned since then is that they had more questions that were multifaceted, meaning one question that was assessing like 3 different standards. That was true particularly in math. So maybe a more complex question that tested more areas. Part of it was they were trying to reduce the number of questions, but when you have a question that's testing 3 standards, that can be complicated for a student to break down.
Thank you.
Okay, math is an area where we obviously struggle more. We have 74 points below standard. Previously, math has been a challenge for quite some time, but you'll see it is currently a challenge for many districts. This is an area that we definitely are making every effort to put a focus on and make some adjustments and improvements in this area. You'll see the bulk of our students in the very low, and then not really the bulk of our students. The bulk of our students are in that socioeconomically disadvantaged group. They're in the low. The very low is just a bigger number of specific student groups.
I'm sorry,
Go
what are the
ahead.
names of the tests that they take to ascertain this?
Okay, so for ELA and math, it's called the CASP, CAASPP.
Yeah.
And then for science, it's the CAST. We won't be talking about that one tonight because we
Right.
And then the LPAC is the English Learner Proficiency Assessment. Okay, so for chronic absenteeism, this is all related to attendance. So previous to COVID, we were at 11%. With COVID, we're at 20%. One thing we were working very hard toward is trying to get at least in line with the state, how the state was doing, and the state was hovering around 9 and 10% chronically absent prior to COVID. But now during COVID, we're way outperforming the state. We were only at 20%, and statewide it was 30%. So this was a problem that all districts had coming out of COVID, and students being out more than what we've expected. And we've seen that with our ADA as well. If you look at the students, the majority of our subgroups are all in the very high range, because anything over like 10% is considered very high. And you can see, we're at 20%. So of course our students are in the very high. Okay, so English learner progress performance, you'll see the subgroups aren't there because English learners are a subgroup unto themselves. So for that one, we did score high for cell phone bars because we had more than 50% of our students scoring, making that benchmark of a full year's progress on the LPAC, which is challenging. Okay, so graduation rate, we've taken about a 5 to 6% dip, depending on the year you identify from pre-COVID. It's similar to what we've had seen drop in the state, but we are at the medium level for our graduation rate. And hopefully this year, with all of the things that we put in place with credit recovery and some of the other things, we'll see an improvement there next year. But we are 3 bars are at the median status level for this one, where we used to be high. Okay, for suspension rate, it doesn't look as bad when you see just 7.8%. However, we're a long ways, because suspension rate, the state average is about 3%. We are well above the state expectations for suspension rate. We're not out of the norm at all for most other school districts, but we are out of the range for what the state's expectations are. And you can see all of our subgroups are most all over on the high or very high side. Okay, so what does this mean? So if you take the comparison to how we're doing, take the average. So all of those indicators added together. So one for the very low or 1 cell phone bar, and on up it goes. If you average all of our district's indicators together, we end up at a 2.3. Statewide, the average of indicators across all 1,000 plus districts in the state is at a 2.5. So we are below, but we are not that far behind the pack. One of the biggest factors that you have to take into consideration as we look at all of this data across is that the single greatest factor in determining a student's success in school is their socioeconomic status. And that is 2 components, one being the family income and the other being parent education. Our district is 81% low socioeconomic status. So when you take that into consideration, comparing us to the state, which is at 60%, we are going to have more students in our district compared to the statewide scores that are going to struggle and need additional support. If looking at this provides you kind of a view of, if you take that same kind of average across our subgroups, that is the indicator average across our groups. Okay, when you pull like our similar districts in the state of California, there's 19 that fit a criteria that are within at least 2,000 students that are similar in size, but then also similar in that socioeconomic status factor. So a district that is at least within 2,000 students of ours and within 15% of our 80 plus percent in terms of the socioeconomic factor, you'll see how we rank in terms of how we're doing with our different indicators. Now, the one doesn't mean we're the best of those 19. It means we're at the same status level. We're at the top level for how these districts are doing. And I printed out the similar schools chart. It's part of the presentation I'll show you in just a moment. But then you'll get an idea. So like in math, all of the districts are in a 2. For chronic absenteeism, all of the districts are at a 1. So we'll take a look at that. And that's what this means, is that this is very small, and if you have eyes like mine, you're going to struggle. So I gave you that one on a big sheet. So you should have that there with your packet. But these are the districts in the state that can be classified similar to ours. You can pick all kinds of things to relate to your district. To me, the most important things are size and student socioeconomic status. So that's what we pulled to look at for this. So there are districts that are doing a little better, and you can take a look at the numbers going across there and see where they're doing better. Pretty much everybody's doing the same in math and ELA. It was a hurdle coming back from COVID and addressing a new assessment. But look at chronic absenteeism. Everybody's got the same struggles with chronic absenteeism with last year with all of the COVID absences. You can see with the LP, we are clearly number 1. Our English learners outscored every other similar district to ours.
So 4 is a good number on that.
Yay! Yes, high is good. With suspension rate, this is where some of the other districts really did better than we did. We are in that low range, and some of the other districts did a little bit better. And then graduation rate, you'll see some districts that did better there with being at the high while we're at the median level. And those are the 2, suspension rate and grad rate, were the areas that made the difference. The LP helped us a little bit. These are districts that are local districts. They are not, didn't really meet the criteria, but they're districts that we always compare ourselves to just because they are close by and what we would consider fairly similar. They might not, like Natomas is similar size, but their SCD rate is quite a bit different than ours. And Chico is a similar size, but their SCD rate is a little bit different, but we fall pretty much in the pack for how everybody's doing. And that's why none of the data means anything until you have something to compare it to and see how everybody's doing. Okay, so what happens next? Once we receive this data, and just like I shared with you on the chart, schools are now reviewing information with teachers. They're working on looking at what they want to do, adjustments they feel like they need to make moving forward. We will take this information into all of our planning for the LCAP. What we want to focus on for next year, we'll be taking that input from the community, from and staff on what our next steps will be. So we'll review, plan around the results. Then come fall, we'll implement and make efforts to support that change. So now, any questions? I did give you one extra piece of paper there that talked about, it's not, I didn't get it in the presentation, but this shows our English learner progress in terms of long-term. If you look at that middle column and both the English language arts results and at the bottom in the math results, you'll see our redesignated English learners outperformed our English only students. So it's a lesson to all of us: learn 2 languages. It makes you much smarter, right? Okay, that's all I have for you. Did you have any questions? Before we move on? All right, thank you. Thank you.
Moving forward to comments from the public on items not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do you have a statement?
To items not appearing on the agenda, notice to the public. The Brown Act, specifically Government Code Section 54954.2, provides that no action or discussion shall be taken place on any item unless it is adequately described in a timely posted agenda. Accordingly, though the public may comment on matters within the board's jurisdiction that do not appear on the agenda, the board cannot respond to such comments without ruining the risk of deliberating or initiating discussion on topics not properly before the board. Given the prohibitions set forth in the Brown Act and the risks associated with responding to public comments, the board does not respond to the community's questions or comments. The board will respect rights of the public to express their viewpoints on matters within the board's jurisdiction. However, comments that are defamatory or that violate the privacy rights of any students or individuals may not be protected by law. The board shall not permit any disturbance or willful interruption of board meetings.
I will start with Raquel Stevens.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for allowing me to address you tonight. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I don't know how many of you have been out to our transportation department bus yard, but it is rock and gravel. I personally have been out since October due to medical, and I'm getting ready to go back. I went back because my routes have changed and I wanted to say hello to everybody and get my new route sheets, and I forgot my rowboat. Literally, there's no staff parking there for us. A lot of the places we park, it's mud. The places that are paved, we're parking in front of gates, which doesn't allow our mechanics to open them up if they need to, so that we have places to park. Even those places, you're above your ankle. So if you don't have rain boots, out in the yard, due to the gravel, it sinks down. Last year, I had twice gone to my supervisor and written up that we needed to do something to it because I had kind of twisted my ankle. It never came of anything, but with this rain that we're getting now, I can't imagine how much worse it's going to continue to get. I start back next week. I'm a little nervous because I haven't been around the yard. When you have puddles that fill and then they dry a little and then they fill more, it's really a safety issue to walk out in that yard when you have the puddles the way they are. You can't avoid them. You don't know where it's safe, where it's not safe. I got here tonight and was made aware that maintenance has dug a ditch somewhere, and I need to be careful when I pull my bus out from where I'm parked at and I come around a corner, or I'll go down into this ditch and I'll get stuck. I'm not sure. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that it is an issue. We have no staff parking. Yeah, we're wet all day. We do have rain jackets. We can't use umbrellas. We are using our hands all the time when we're doing our bus checkouts. So we have middays, we have ROPs. Like when I go to work, I go at 5 in the morning. I'm there all day long till 4:30, sometimes 4:45 in the afternoon. I don't have a big enough break to go home. I don't want to start bringing my wardrobe so that I can continuous change throughout the day. So if we could get some help, or if someone can come up with anything to help us out in our area out there, it would be greatly appreciated just to even come on out and take a look, especially with what we've got going on now, because you're going to find a hard-pressed place to park. If you don't have some rain boots on, you're going to be past your ankles in water walking into our building. And our building, where it's located to get out to our buses, you need a boat. You need a boat, or you need to be super careful when you're walking. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. It's only my second year here. Last year was my first year experiencing it, and I immediately went when I hurt my ankle. This year, it's worse. I forgot when I came out. So I parked in the handicap. Okay, thank you for your time.
Next will be Kelly Coates.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Coates, and I'm a CTA staff person assigned to represent YCTA. I wanted to start off by saying congratulations to the newly elected board members, and good to see the returning ones. I will have some financial packets for you that were just passed out. I'll make my comments pretty short because a lot of these charts speak for themselves. As you can see, there's no doubt that they have money in this district to pay your teachers a fair and living wage. Where we differ in opinion is the priority of where to spend the money. It appears the district wants to spend the bulk of their money on things that don't teach children: land, equipment, buildings, and professional consultants. As you can see, the percentage spent on certificated staff, which does not include administrators, is going down. This means when you get significantly more revenue, it's not proportionally spent on teachers. So think of it as a very large pie, and the piece for teachers is getting smaller and smaller. What teachers really need is equity. Equity with other districts to make them competitive to keep teachers here in Yuba City. Equity with other professionals to keep them in the teaching profession. And with equity with rising costs so they don't make less and less each year with rising inflation and healthcare costs. I invite all of you to come and meet with the YCTA bargaining team, as you has done with your district. So we can go over great detail of our financial analysis. YCTA will be reaching out to you to schedule this with you really soon. And I look forward to having a great working relationship with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heather Fee, and much appreciation for the phonetic spelling.
No problem. It's been a lifelong challenge. Good evening. I'm Heather Fee. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Landcrest Elementary School. Board members, thank you. We introduced ourselves the last time, but I'm glad to be here again, be able to address you. Thank you for your time. Together, we play a vital role in our community. As a team, we're responsible for the education of thousands of students who will become the future leaders of our society. It is therefore critical that we provide these students with the best possible education, an education that is dependent upon the district's ability to attract and retain highly qualified educational professionals. As you can see on your handouts, when it comes to school-related factors, things like not like SES, which we cannot control for, but the things we can control, classroom teachers have the greatest impact on a student's school success. And we provide more than just academics. We provide emotional support, we act as role models, we can be a safe adult, or even just a listening ear. We are ensuring that students have access to, ensuring that students have access to a qualified and trained teacher should be a top, if not the top priority for YCUSD. Teaching takes teamwork. And in order to be the best team possible, all positions need to be fully staffed. We currently have positions such as a 6th grade classroom at Riverbend with a long-term sub, and a PE class at Yuba City High School with a teacher who is not credentialed to teach PE. There are intervention and reset room positions sitting open in our district because those teachers were pulled to cover classrooms without teachers. There are many classrooms where teachers are on emergency credentials and are doing their best, but need the support of experienced role models to meet the needs of our diverse learners. We currently have 3 vacant counseling positions, and students at Yuba City High School were without an art teacher for the first 15 weeks of school. We all know there's a shortage of teachers. Coming out of years impacted by COVID continues to be a challenge. As awkward as it is to discuss, salary and benefits are a key decision-making factor for job seekers. To attract and retain the best teachers requires a salary that makes teachers want to choose YCUSD as their team. I encourage you to spend the money you have available today to educate the students we have today. Let's not lose good teachers to neighboring districts that have already settled for an 8.5% increase and a significantly higher benefits cap. Our community needs YCUSD to offer competitive salaries so that our team is the best in a highly competitive market. Let's make sure the staff of YCUSD are the best possible team for our students. Thank you.
Trinity.
Hi, my name is Trinity Counts. I'm a math teacher at River Valley High School. I'm also the bargaining chair for YCTA. I also have 2 students that have graduated from YCUSD, and I still currently have 2 students that are in elementary and in high school with YCUSD. I'm here to talk to you about the money because being a math teacher, I also like looking at budgets. The money is there. We have studied the accounts that Scott so generously shared with us. And the bottom line, our proposed salary increase would cost $9 million. That $9 million, if we put that dollars into perspective, there is a 13.26 13.26 cost of one. I got lost. My bad. The district's LCFF revenue is $154 million about. That increased 13.26% prior from last year. The cost of our proposal is 5.8% of that LCFF revenue. The cost of our proposal represents 3.1% of the district's total revenue. Whenever I came to this district 9 years ago, I came to this district to be able to grow and to have opportunities in a district that wanted teachers to be here. And I wanted to come here. Right now, I am worried that as our certificated salaries in 2002 and 2003, which is right about whenever I first started teaching, were 52% of the budget. That's direct cost, as Heather was saying, is going to your students right now. And I currently have students in this district. So yes, I want highly qualified teachers to be teaching my kids as well. We are now down to 33% of the district's budget. That is a decrease of 19% in 20 years. And so that makes me afraid of what my daughter is going to be able to see in the next 6 years as she's finishing out with Yuba City Unified. If the teacher shortage, which I know is across the units or across the entire state of California, but if Yuba City cannot attract and retain qualified teachers, I want my daughter to have the best education, and teachers will go elsewhere. I've already seen it happen at the high school. We lost 13 teachers last year. Thank you.
Michael Westcamp.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Westcamp. I'm a teacher at River Valley High School. I teach social science, and I'm also a member of the bargaining team. I'm also a former student. Yes, so I am also a Yuba City native, and some of what I'm going to talk about is from that perspective. So what just got handed out to you are two wonderful articles that show the gap in pay between people with similar college educations to those of teachers. I just want to point out a few things with that. First of all, teachers earn roughly 23.5% less than comparable college graduates. That's just something to note. That's across the country. Here in this state, it's a little bit more than 17%. So our state is doing better, but still there's a 17% gap between somebody with a similar education to me in different line of work. So I think that elevating the profession, first of all, should be something that we focus on here in YCUSD. But something else that is from a perspective of a younger teacher like myself, this is my 4th year. Yuba City, I love this town, born and raised, 18 years, born at Fremont Hospital. Yuba City is not the most fun place for a young teacher to be. This is a wonderful community to raise a family. I love this community, that's why I'm here. But if we want to attract more teachers, people who are graduating from Chico State, from Davis, from Sac State. If we want to attract them here, we have to consider the cost of commuting. Many of our teachers do live in Chico or Sacramento, and in order to attract more younger teachers who are entering the profession, I believe that we have to stay at least competitive, if not more, to attract those awesome new teachers. Thank you.
Sarah?
Good evening, Sara Heredia Magaña, a 4th grade teacher at King Avenue. And everybody online. Nonetheless, again, here with Yuba City Unified Teachers School District Teaching Association. Teachers have played an essential role, and we have so much work to address the students' loss of learning both before and after the pandemic. It was there before. Working to address that, the social emotional needs, and to foster their growth as citizens of Yuba City, to keep them as citizens of Yuba City. As a mother of 2 children at April Lane and a teacher at King Avenue, I know the importance of attracting and retaining great teachers. Thank you to Ms. Espinosa, if you're in here, Ms. Bray, all of the teachers that my children have had, that have engaged them, that have taught them to love reading, to love learning. King Avenue staff as well, that supports everyone. Our students need us. The data shows that students are struggling. We need fully credentialed teachers in every classroom. We need to retain those great teachers, the great teachers that we have, and then some that have left. Our profession is experiencing a major shortage. A recent poll found that 55% of educators plan to leave the field sooner than expected, and some of them already have. Meeting with the furniture consultants, one of the things that they addressed is, oh, I was a former teacher. I know, why are you selling furniture now? Oh, they make more probably. So the teacher turnover has negatively affected students' achievement. We need strategies to address this. I moved to Yuba City for love, and I've stayed for love and loving my position at King Avenue and the staff that we work with. But I also want to be assured that my children, my own children at home, continue to have great teachers as they move on to Gray Avenue and River Valley High School. Burnout is a serious challenge in retaining teachers. A significant amount of this stress comes from having to cover the shortage in personnel. Losing educational staff increases reliance on substitute teachers who tend to have less experience and lower credentials compared to the full-time educators. Qualified teachers know how to create lessons plan, implement those lesson plans effectively, and engage with students in learning, and most substitutes normally don't. Got some good ones, but most of them don't, and it's really hard. The reality and the key and component to attracting and retaining teachers is compensation. Salaries that show that you value and respect our work, that is priceless. Yuba City teachers, we need your support. Thank you.
Tina, Lucas.
Good evening, board members, members of the audience, and members out there, and staff. I'm Dina Lukens, president of the Yuba City Teachers Association. It's my pleasure to welcome the new board. I was not with you in December. I'm the president of the Yuba City Teachers Association. I'm a chemistry and physics teacher at Yuba City High School, and I am currently a nationally board certified teacher as of December 2022. So that's quite an accomplishment. I know I have a cohort from Park Avenue who's currently working on their national board certification. It is a rigorous process. Yuba City needs to attract and retain the very best for our students, regardless of where we are in our careers. Tonight, you heard from the future of Yuba City Unified. You heard from teachers who represent the young teachers beginning their career in Yuba City Unified and those in the middle of their careers. They chose Yuba City Unified. Let's make sure they keep choosing Yuba City Unified. Let's make sure they stay in Yuba City Unified. Teachers like me, well, we're in Yuba City Unified until we retire. Some of us sooner than others. And I'd like to call out a few folks in the audience. They don't know I'm calling them out, but out there in the audience is David Satterley, who started with Yuba City Unified in 1978. Kent Myers, who started in 1985. Robin Zaragoza, who is the last remaining person who started at AK when they started in 1989. And finally, Jen Doran, who started at AK when I started at AK back in 1990. There are many of us who've contributed to decades of success here at Yuba City Unified. We're here tonight asking you to take a long, hard look at the budget. Look at the priorities of Yuba City Unified. Look at those graphics we shared. We've given you a thoughtful and detailed analysis of the budget. to show you what appears to be the priority of the district. We're asking you that you make teaching and learning your highest priority by valuing the employees who are employed to work directly with students in Yuba City Unified. We're asking you to invest in the personnel who work in Yuba City Unified. I hope that we can count on you to restore teachers to the majority of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Moving forward to the consent agenda. May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
On a motion by member Dami and a second by member Pretty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. I'll give folks a second to clear out.
She's got a long time. Thanks for coming.
Mine too.
What?
Well, one of mine.
Kelly. Swanson. Really? Mr. Saddle, you might get very right.
Reminiscing on all our teachers and
That's true, Jasmine. Yeah. Mr. Saddle was my fifth grade teacher.
And he came back after both of us.
Mr. Perry back there was my pre-calc teacher. Hi, Mr. Perry. Great. How are you?
His wife was my student.
Really?
Yeah.
I was
an amazing teacher.
I was the class when they got together.
They were your students.
That's hilarious.
All right, now that everyone's cleared out, moving on to the action. 13A is designating a liaison for the Yuba City Charter School Board. We accidentally brushed past that at our organizational meeting. So as the authority which has authorized these charter schools and they're in our district, it's our responsibility to provide oversight. And as part of that oversight, we designate a liaison to their board who can attend their board meeting and participate to the extent that's appropriate and ask questions and keep in touch with the folks at that school. Is there anything I'm leaving out? I just looked it up. My Google search was correct. Their board meetings are on Wednesdays, right?
I believe so.
Okay, so it looked like both of theirs was on Wednesday. Is anyone interested in serving as a liaison to the Yuba City Charter School Board?
Can't do Wednesdays. I can do Twin Rivers.
Oh, dang, I was gonna say that. I'll take the other one, Yuba City Charter School.
Okay, could I have a motion to nominate Londa?
I make a motion to nominate one.
I'll second the motion. On a motion by member Domi and a second by member Quilty, as a motion to designate Londa Lamb as liaison to the Yuba City Charter School Board. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. Thank you. Same thing, but for the Twin Rivers Charter School Board.
You need a motion. I make a motion to nominate member Donnie as the liaison to the Twin Rivers Charter School Board.
Second motion. On a motion by member Ciociola and a second by member Quilty to nominate member Domi to the Twin Rivers Charter School Board. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. 13C, student cases. May I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we approve as discussed in the session.
I'll second the motion. On a motion by member Donnie and a second by member Quilty to approve the student cases as discussed in closed session. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. 13B, approval of playground replacements change order. Mr. Bentley.
Yeah, I have just a little explanation for that. So on June 28th of 2022, the board approved replacement equipment for 11 schools. And that quote came to 7.7 million. And the reason I bring that up is when the Lincoln playground equipment was recently kind of reviewed, it was determined that they just needed some changes. They needed to some additional equipment and to space it out a little bit. So it just cost more money. That's the quote in here. And by adding the dollar amount to this quote, it actually brings it in line with the average cost that we spend at all 11 schools. So it's not really like more necessarily. It's more in line with all the other schools.
I got a question.
Sure.
So it says completion date on there of May. Have they started work already
At that school?
at that school?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's another 4 months of work to be done?
Don't know the answer to that. They usually give themselves some time, some cushion to complete the project. I would not expect a project of this size to take 4 months, so I can respond back to the entire board email as far as
Yeah.
the expected completion date.
Because
Sure.
I have a point of inquiry. Okay, so it's just a 2% change, right, over the initial?
No, it's a significant change. So that Lincoln, the original work was 558,000. So this is 2% on the entire contract, correct?
Yeah, sorry, that was my fault. Okay, so it's a 2%. Okay, and the reason this wasn't anticipated earlier was because.
So this is not a change order to get this is a change order to add, not necessarily. Sometimes you see change orders that, to get exactly what we want in the first place, it costs more money to do that.
But you don't send it out to rebid, right? Because.
So this is already, all this is pre-approved. It's already been publicly bid. So we do what I call a piggyback on this. So
Right.
we do not rebid, correct?
Right. And they've already started on it.
Not the change, but the original.
But the original.
Absolutely.
And they got into it and then they found, oh, well, we need, say it again.
So not the contractor didn't decide that. When it was discussed with the principal and between the director of maintenance and the principal, they wanted to make a design change. And so the additional design change and the additional, which results in additional work, is this cost.
Okay, $150,000.
Correct.
So was the principal not involved in the initial?
I don't have no. So the principal was definitely involved in the initial design. Yes.
They were involved, but I don't know what got into when they got into their decision today.
And it's just a point of clarity too. This is not with our general unrestricted funds. This is COVID dollars that we're using for this. I don't know if that helps, but one-time funds spent on a one-time project. One-time.
So in the future, is it possible that for the school sites that we will be going through this process in the coming year, is it possible to maybe touch base with them one more time so that we can.
So if you're asking if we're not going to have change orders in the future, the answer is that I would never guarantee that. I'll do the opposite. I'll say we will always come to have a change order in the project. It happened. If we could go with what we probably consider at this point an inadequate project, or we can move forward with what we think is going to satisfy the needs of the school.
On a motion by member Dami and a second by member Pretty to approve the change order. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none.
Thank you.
All right. Item 13E, YCHS Child Development Program.
Yes, good evening. If the board recalls, during the last meeting, you approved the annual grant that our child care or our child development preschool program receives annually from CDE to continue their work. Tonight, this is the grant specific to supporting our migrant students within that program. And this also has to be approved by the board in order for us to accept those funds and provide those services to our students.
Any questions?
What is the, how many migrant students on average do we have?
A couple of hundred.
There are no further questions. Can I have a motion?
I'll move that we approve.
On a motion by member Pretty and a second by member Downey to approve the item 13E. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. Board reports, committee reports, we don't have.
So Laura, did the list go out for the board to sign up for the committees?
I think. Are we gonna revisit it? Governance? Yeah.
Well, so in the meantime, we have committees that will be meeting, and
Yeah.
so, direction in terms of the interim, what would you like to do, because we have a governance meeting now.
Yeah.
So one person.
Yeah, as on the president.
Yes.
Would it be possible to have you email to all of us the list of committees available?
Yes.
And maybe a reminder as to which committees we are on. I know I'm on graduation committee and.
Yes, that would
Personnel
be, as
committee.
it's not the list currently, and then you can always make the adjustments based upon after governance and review of your committees. If there's anything you'd like to add or delete, we can make those adjustments at that time, but there are committees that will be meeting soon. And the committee list is not complete because so I'll send it out.
Yeah.
And then you can look and see what you're currently signed up for and where there might be some overlaps. Okay. And it'll be as an interim list.
Okay. Otherwise, the committees have met in the past month or so. We're all good. Any written communications from the public? Communications from the public? Comments from employee representative?
Good evening, it's me again. I'm still Dina Lukens, president of the Yuba City Teachers Association. I want to thank you for your time this evening and your service. We really do appreciate the services of our board. We look forward to negotiations this Thursday between YCTA and YCUSD. And I want to bring you other good news tonight. In addition to the 13.26% increase in LCFF funding that the district benefited from this year. And the governor's new proposed budget released today, we can expect, based on his proposed budget, an 8.13% cost of living increase to be passed along to LCFF funding. And I'm going to read you this statement from CTA President Toby Boyd. Governor Gavin Newsom's proposed budget keeps the promise of equitable access to a quality public education and resources for all students. CTA commends the governor for prioritizing public education, students and families in the face of a $22.5 billion budget shortfall. The governor's continued prioritization of education and the state's resilient budget means that local school districts will be able to focus on implementing the recent investments in education, expanding learning opportunities for all students, and continue to recover from the pandemic. Proposed 8.13% cost of living increase to the local control funding formula will provide much needed resources to students and communities. Governor Newsom has continued his commitment to support California's public schools, from the historic investment in community schools and transitional kindergarten to providing more resources for special education, school meals, social emotional support. These investments will provide comprehensive support for our students for a whole child approach. CTA looks forward to working with the legislature and governor in coming months to finalize a budget that reflects the will of California voters, educators, and parents to prioritize public schools and colleges. I, for one, appreciate our state's continued commitment to quality public education, and that only comes through funding public education. The state is able to do this despite the economic downturns that we may anticipate, because our state has been prudent in a rainy day fund. So we look forward to continuing our investment in public education and continuing our work as public school educators in working here in Yuba City Unified. So thank you.
Good evening, I'm Mercedes Geraldo, and I am the president of Yuba City Unified Chapter 265 of CSEA, California School Employees Association. I represent all the non-credentialed staff. And except for management. Start up, I'm sorry I didn't get quite on your all bandwagon. Y'all did a great job. Last meeting, we were, last board meeting last month, forever ago, we were still in our process of setting our e-board. So now we do have a new executive board. I am still the president. We have Stephen Whitby has moved up to first vice president. Rosalind Tapia. Stephen Whitby is a grounds worker. Rosalind Tapia, who is a special ed paraeducator, is our second VP. Our treasurer is a cafeteria manager, Sion Jack. Our secretary is Pam Hall. She's also our past president and a library tech at Yuba City High School. Our sergeant of arms works in the IT department, and Jeff Hodges, also a member of the negotiating team. Site rep coordinator will be Rachel Chavez, and she is also a member of our negotiating team. And our chief union steward is Peggy Custon. I think Peggy was in the room. She's not out, so she popped in for a minute. So we are all looking forward to working with the district this year and being able to reach out to the board with our issues. And we hope that if you have questions that you will reach out to us. Again, I spoke about this last month. The para conference is out there and it's open. And if we don't get registrations in by January 31st, it's going to cost us more money. And I'm sure nobody wants us to spend more money, but I'm sure that we have plenty of money to spend to send people to the para conference, and we need to be looking at that. And it's not just para educators, and it's not just special education para educators. Any para educator it's valuable for that. Especially our special needs bus drivers, our campus supervisors, people that are interacting with our students, sometimes our more challenging students. There's lots of different tools on this conference to help learn how to positively deal with different issues and make a positive impact on our students. So I do encourage that we do really get on this. We've always sent people to the para conference. We've always sent at least 4 paras there, but we really need to make an effort. We have a lot of paras in this district now that we have brought in all of our ELA and our after school program as instructional aides. Now paras, soon to be paras, name change finally. So I don't know how much I can get off that bandwagon, but you know, this is a conference that I have attended many, many times. I always come back rejuvenated with tools in my belt to make an impact in the classroom. As a paraeducator, I work side by side with students. I have 3 teachers in the audience here that I work with. Well, some of them snuck out, and a few that I've worked with in the past. So having that knowledge is invaluable because, again, our students deserve trained staff, trained classified staff, trained credentialed staff. We all need to have the best practices out there. We do look forward to getting back to negotiations next week, next Tuesday on the 17th. One thing I want to mention, and I kind of brought this up, you know, January 1st, minimum wage went up, which means we are constantly chasing our tail at the low end of that salary schedule. Our cafeteria workers range 22.5, starting range is $15.23 an hour. That is below minimum wage. Yes, I see that we hired somebody. We hired him at step 2 because obviously that was not within lines, but we can't have a salary schedule that is lower than minimum wage. That just is not accurate, not right. So we need to definitely do something about it. I thank you all. Thank you for being here and taking the responsibility to your board members, I guess.
Moving on to comments from board members.
I have a comment. The weather is super, super bad. We all know this, but I thought especially of the bus drivers, because I think in a previous meeting, somebody had mentioned that some of you guys get to the yard at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was woken up by the strong winds this morning. And I was like, how the heck is somebody able to drive in this? And I commend you guys on what you guys do, even for those of our employees who commute. I know you guys can get out much earlier. And the only thing I have to say is just be safe, drive safe. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
clarification in Dina's newsletter for September. It says I declined to meet with you guys. I just want to make it note of it that I've never used that email address. So please just take note that I did not decline to meet with anyone. And if you guys ever have a question for me, please reach out to me. You can find me on my cell phone. It's probably the easiest and best way to reach me. Thank you.
Thank you. Received a request to re-adjourn to closed session. So is there anyone opposed to that? Go ahead and adjourn to closed session.
I mean, if you any comments until after closed session or?
I assumed your comment was going to be we adjourn to closed session. Did you have another comment? I'm sorry.
Yeah, to reports.
Sorry.
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great night. Be safe out there.
Thank you.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe, with lessons in person and personalized. Instruments including guitars and amps, horns, strings for instruments, and a myriad of music and sound equipment. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe.